Welcome once again, everybody, to the Anderson Law Power Hour podcast with this guy here, Attorney Tim Anderson. As I've officially knighted him the Second Amendment specialist here in Virginia, taking it all the way to Fairfax and all throughout the Commonwealth, and definitely will be in Richmond. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the author and guest, and this podcast is for informational purposes only. Always realize that. It does not constitute legal advice. Also, there's no attorney-client privilege or relationship. Feel free to ask your question or comment on Facebook. Legal consultation services will be determined at the time of your phone call and your appointment here to Anderson Law. It's a firm located at 2492 North Landing Road, Suite 104, here in Virginia Beach. As you probably found the links, virginialawoffice.com, virginialawoffice.com. Number here, 800-1000, 800-1000. Of course, the area code is 757. Taking another turn, this whole proposal, and it's just, this issue is getting exciting in many, many ways. And thanks for taking us to school.
Hi Facebook, Tim Anderson here with Mark Rawlson. We are, if you're just becoming new to our Facebook page, Mark and I have been doing this show now for most of 2019. Right?
Yeah, that's right. Back in March, I think, or so. Yeah.
And so we started off on the AM, and it has kind of evolved into this. Look at all these people already popping up and saying.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you joining the conversation.
So you can see that. I can see you all over here on my side as well. Great, thank you. So we're having an hour just to talk. Okay. Yeah. You guys have some questions, post them here in the comments. I can see them, and we're going to just have a conversation.
Well, I appreciate it. Like I said, you're taking us to school on this, and I'm glad, on both sides, as I'm out and about in the public, engaging folks and at the city council meetings and so forth, you find there's just a small percentage of those who are on the extreme, but the exciting thing, most of us are right down the middle of this. We do not want our rights infringed upon, the Second Amendment rights. We don't want that to happen. And so that's why there's been the groundswell the last couple of months or so.
I can't imagine, I can't believe how many Democrats have come to me, card-carrying Democrats, and said, this is outrageous, these people don't speak for us.
That's fantastic, that's good to know.
And so, Ben, you asked how does Senate Bill 16 not violate the Constitution? That's the topic point of the week. So last week, just to bring you all up to speed, Congressman McEachin, when interviewed, went on the record and said that because of all the sanctuary cities that are popping up in Virginia, now 90 plus, there's only 100.
95. So it's more. Whoa.
Yeah, we're in the 90s now. There's about 6 or 7 total in Virginia.
All right.
Because these sanctuary cities are popping up where the localities, if Senate Bill 16 passes or something like it, police aren't going to enforce that law because it's blatantly unconstitutional. So the congressman, when talking about that, says, well, I think that the governor should consider deploying the National Guard. And when he said that, I literally fell out of my chair. I couldn't believe he would say such a thing. Yeah. A United States congressman suggesting that the governor of Virginia should deploy the National Guard to enforce blatantly unconstitutional bills. And so we are in a position where, the amping up and keeps amping up. And then the congressman comes out and says, hey, we'll fix them. We'll just put armed soldiers on the streets and they'll enforce these laws. I couldn't believe it.
How silly.
I mean, instead of the Democrats coming out and saying, whoa, we have heard you, Virginia. I mean, the entire state, every major municipality except for like Fairfax and Virginia Beach and a couple of others have said, we want a sanctuary zone. We hear you. We want to have reasonable gun reform, but we're going to take another look at this. Instead of that, they send one of their henchmen out and they say, well, we'll just send in the National Guard. All right. Instead of the Attorney General coming out and saying, yeah, I have some current concerns with Senate Bill 16 and I'm going to express those, he says, no, the laws are going to be followed. Right. And instead of the governor coming out and saying, hey, we want I'm not going to. I don't think Senate Bill 16 is. I think it goes too far. He says, well, we're going to let you keep now prohibited firearms as long as you register them. And then just days before, he says, we're working on confiscation plans.
Right.
So where do I register my firearms so that you know where they are, so that later you can confiscate them? It's outrageous.
Right.
So, man, you guys are like rapid firing questions.
Can we touch on that really quickly, or you want to go to a question?
No, I don't want to go to these questions. I see. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, one of the topics I've seen a lot in the last couple of posts on your post I'm out and about, people are concerned that the background check is some form of registration.
Right.
Is that the case?
That's
leading to a registry.
That's happens in a background check. And I'm speaking now as a gun shop owner, not as a lawyer. This is what happens. You come into the gun shop and you say, hey, I want to buy this pistol. And so you fill out the forms, and we tell the state police that you are buying a pistol. We don't tell them what kind of pistol, we don't tell them the manufacturer, the serial number, anything. It's just you're buying a pistol. So all the state police knows is that you're buying a pistol, or you're buying a rifle, or you're buying a shotgun. And that's all they know.
Okay.
And then now in the gun shop has to maintain a record of the sale, and they have to keep those records for 20 years.
There's a myth, and some guys say, oh, you just need to keep it for 2 years or 5 years.
Yeah.
You said, you know the facts, 20 years.
20 years.
There you go.
20
Tim
years.
knows the answer.
20 years. Now, state police only make you keep it for a couple of years, but the feds make you keep it for 20.
Okay.
So, you fill out a federal form and a state form, and the federal form is where all the information is about the firearm. That has to be stored for 20 years.
Okay, there you go.
So 20 years, and the gun shop has that record. And if the state police or the FBI or ATF ever wanted to come in and look at it based upon some kind of an investigation, then they could start tracking down ownership that way, and that's called tracing. And we get requests from the ATF daily at my gun shop
So that we didn't know.
for tracing.
Okay.
So if a gun, they know that through the chain of how guns move through commerce, that if we sold it, they ask us through an ATF tracing, who did we sell it to, and we send them off the record.
Right.
That happens all the time.
And it's legal.
It's legal
By
because it's
law.
an investigation.
Right.
And when the ATF requests something from us, we have the right to say no because it's an investigation. No subpoenas, no nothing. But and then the state police can do the same thing. They can send a trooper in and say, hey, we're looking into this transaction. We need to see this guy's record.
Right.
And then we have to produce it. But there's no registration per se where your name goes into a government system with the serial number and the make and model of the gun.
Right. And let's quell that hysteria. If you haven't done anything, there's no reason for them to look you up.
Yeah, there shouldn't be.
Right.
Now, the question would be is if Senate Bill something like it passes, and then they say, now investigate every gun shop's records on rifle transactions to see who's bought AR-15s, for instance. And then they get those records, and then they could then go to somebody's house and say, where's this AR-15 of yours? And then that person would have to, determine, have to respond to that. So it could turn into a big monster criminal investigation. But the nice thing is that there's only hundreds of state police, and there are millions of gun owners.
Right.
So the likelihood of the state police doing that is pretty low because there's really just not enough people to do it.
Yeah. I just want to quell that hysteria. There's a legitimate fear, as we all, God forbid, this goes through HB 16, but we're looking at July 1st.
July 1.
July 1. Did I say?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
July 1st.
Yeah, July 1 is when any of these laws would come through. Now, it seems as though, because of the backlash by the state, that SB 16 is near dead.
That's an exciting thing.
And that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You are making it happen. Your communities going to those local council meetings. That is making it happen. I've been saying that all along, that they're political statements, and now we are seeing Senator Salazar, in his own words, say that he never intended on Senate Bill 16 becoming the law. He never intended it being the assault weapons bill of Virginia. How convenient.
Why did you put it up there?
I know, right? Why would you put a bill up that would make hundreds of thousands of people felons if it don't, get rid of lawfully owned property prior to the law changing? and Senate Bill 16 is complicated. It's not like it's just a little, one-line bill. It was extremely comprehensive,
sure is, yes.
extremely well thought out, and the idea of having a grandfather clause or having any protections for the lawful gun owners in Virginia had to have been considered and had to have been determined that they didn't want to do that. And so anyway, that's why we have started the recall of Senator Sal's law movement, which is big. On Friday, I announced that I was going to move forward with that, which is a big thing to do. It requires people in his district, which are mostly up in very, very blue Fairfax. The Senate 35th district is about 75% Democrat. And we would be required to gather 4,000, but really more like 6,000 to 7,000 signatures in his home district to push forward a recall, alleging that he misused his office. By even proposing Senate Bill 16, that's a misuse of office. You can't propose a bill that says hundreds of thousands of people will become felons if you don't comply with it. You can't do that as a representative.
Okay, thanks.
And so that's the argument. Now, as soon as I announced that, the Libertarian Party almost immediately called and said, "We want to take this fight."
Let's give the Libertarian Party some love, man. We really appreciate that. I saw. That was fantastic.
Those
Those
guys are amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, talk about a minor party with very little political voice. They have tremendous volunteers.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we want to do this. We have been instrumental in changing the law on election matters throughout Virginia, and this is the right thing for us to do. This meets our core mission. And so they have it. It's theirs. They're going to carry the torch, and they're going to roll it out, I think, on Saturday up in Fairfax. And they're going into the Lion's Den. Now, there's two things that people need to do with that. One is they're going to need volunteers. Of the country. And they do this all the time at the Libertarian Party. This is a $20,000 thing. Okay, it costs about $3 per signature to get these paid people in, the ones who really know what they're doing, plus expenses, plus printing, all this stuff. It's a $20,000 operation. So we've asked to have people donate. Now, keep in mind, I'm not asking for any money at all. It's not for me. I'm doing this for $0. I'm doing this for love of country because I think that my children should have the same rights that I have. And I'm not going to negotiate my children's rights to get better rights for myself. I'm not going to do it. And one of my very good friends, Vincent Smith, who is running the Second Amendment Virginia Beach Charter. That is his rallying cry, and I am right behind him on this. We should not have to forfeit our children's rights to protect our own rights. And so we are. Now, a lot of you don't like the Libertarian Party, and I get that. You don't like what they, all of their doctrines. But here's the thing: if you donate to them, if you go to the Libertarian Party of Virginia, go to their donate page, and you put in $50 or whatever, there's a screen a little bit further down which says comments. And if you put in the comments, Saslaw recall or recall petition,
great. Oh, that's good. Okay.
That money will be earmarked and only used for that.
Fantastic.
So if you don't like the Libertarian Party in general, you want your money going to them, they have agreed that if you donate and put that thing on there, it will go into a restricted fund just for that. Now, I will tell you, people have asked me, where's the NRA? Where's the Republican Party? Where's the VCDL? Let me tell you about those guys. I'm not going to bash anybody. All right, I don't know 100% what they're doing, but they're on our side. Okay, so there's no reason to talk bad about them. They are just not being aggressive right now and trying to be offensive. But I suspect that all of them will engage somehow, some way, comprehensively as things go along. So don't be upset if you're not seeing the organization you're belonging to in this particular fight. The Libertarians are in this fight. This is their fight now to recall Senator Saslaw. If you want to be a part of it, then do it. Make a donation. You know, if you're watching, I'm seeing all you people from Arkansas and Texas and Kentucky. Make a donation to the Virginia Libertarian Party, because I'm telling you, Kentucky, the Susan just commented, we have had the blue flu to the north of us for a long time, and that's been called Maryland.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
The blue flu, and the blue flu of Maryland has infected the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Right.
And we are in a position where we are, facing, this progressive wave taking over our state. And if you live in Kentucky, if you live in North Carolina, the Virginia blue flu is coming for you. So thank you, Rich, for donating. Those of you, you should do that.
Yeah.
If you live in an out-of-state thing, this is your fight, because we're trying to stay, hold a line here that can tell the progressives that you can't go this far into a southern state. We're going to stand up and stand back to you. The folks in New Jersey, New York, California, they've laid down, but the people in Virginia are standing up. And if you're out of state, you consider this fight your fight.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah. On a good note, in one sense of speaking, as it stands right now, you've been hearing a lot of rhetoric from those who are in opposition to what we're doing as a Second Amendment sanctuary cities. They're making these false proclamations. Well, it's the gun lobby who's trying to push behind this thing, because that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Can you imagine? The Attorney General said that.
It's not the gun lobby, man. It's the citizens.
Yeah, I mean, if I guess I'm the gun lobby.
Right, I guess I am too.
I guess you're the gun lobby. That is the epitome of the Democrats' view of how things are.
Right.
They think that these sanctuaries are some organized fashion by the NRA or some organized fashion of the gun lobby.
Right.
It is thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of people throughout Virginia coming together with the same purpose. Republicans, Libertarians, Democrats, Independents, all saying, no, we don't want our neighbors who are lawful gun owners to become felons overnight. We don't want that kind of extremism in our laws. Even the Democrats are saying, we don't want that. So instead of them saying, oh, this is just the gun lobby trying to scare people, instead of that, they could say, hey, maybe this went a little too far. We see that. We're going to dial it back.
Wouldn't that be great? Anyway, speaking.
Wouldn't it be great for a politician to actually admit that maybe they went a little too far? I mean, I think what happened is that the Democrats get control. Bloomberg bought a lot of the election. That's a fact. He funneled so much money into Virginia to make this state blue that they just thought, hey, we are in charge of the candy shop now, and we can have anything we want. And what they didn't anticipate and realize is that millions of Virginians do not agree with California politics and New York politics. It does not work here, because this is the home of democracy. This is where Thomas Jefferson came from. This is where our forefathers wrote this is it, Virginia. And this is not some wasteland liberal territory. This is a conservative state which has a lot of blue in the leadership, but that doesn't mean that the people of Virginia are blue, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've said this before. The amazing thing, you go some of the city council meetings you've been to, and I've seen on YouTube, and one or two I went to, you're finding some very articulate people. They know they are quoting the Constitution, they're quoting Madison, they're quoting Jefferson, they're quoting everybody, and they are on point. They're passionate about this.
Yeah.
This is real stuff. It's not just something out of the blue. Pardon the pun. You caught that. Y'all caught that.
Yeah.
But it's real. It's really getting to their hearts, and there's a lot of emotion. But we, as those who are proposing for 2A cities, I haven't heard of that type of crazy rhetoric. You know, that's the good thing about it.
Right. What is next? I believe that the VCDL has organized informally a lobby day on January 20th in
That's
Richmond.
exciting, yeah.
And I think a lot of folks are going to go to that. Keep that in mind that we are not going to be able to get into the building and be heard on that day. You know, this isn't like the city council meetings where you're going to be able to sign up and speak to the legislature. You're going to be on the outside, and you're going to have, you know, you're just going to be a show of support for the Second Amendment. But it is inevitably going to be portrayed by the media as a mediocre show of support, even if, you know, even if hundreds of thousands of people are there. So I totally support people getting together, sharing ideas. Maybe by that day we're going to have another petition for people to sign that might be from other parts of the state. I'm not gonna go out there just yet, because I'll tell you, on Friday when I announced I wanted to recall Senator Saslaw, I truly did not understand what I was really biting off. It is a big thing, you know, and without the help of the Libertarian Party, there's no way I could have got that off. I mean, you need thousands of dollars. You need a network of volunteers. You need people who have connections and know where they're going. And if they had not stepped in, this thing would have fizzled out. We had about 60 people show up on Sunday night in Fairfax, and thank God for them. They were awesome. But 60 people isn't going to get it done, you know. And even if they all knew 100 people, they would all have to know 100 people in the 35th district who would sign that, and that is that is not a easy thing to do. So thank goodness for them. I wanted to touch on something else I spoke about earlier this morning about Governor Northam cutting off electricity and internet. Folks, that's just silly. You should be able to read that and know that is silly. And also, I do want to point out one other thing, that Governor Northam himself has never even spoken of using the National Guard. This came from Congressman McEachin. It was not the governor who said it. He said the governor could do it, or maybe should do it, but it was absolutely not going to be something that the governor who could actually do it has even spoken about. And so he has talked about a penalty or consequences to these counties that have declared themselves Second Amendment sanctuaries. I would love for him to tell 95 counties out of 107 that they're going to be penalized.
Right.
I would love to see that.
Right.
So for Virginia Beach and Suffolk, you localities who are refusing to move this thing forward, get on board the train, because you are embarrassing to the state to not be on the train, to say, look, all the sanctuary city says is that we're not going to enforce unconstitutional laws. And there is no question that a bill like Senate Bill 16 is unconstitutional.
That's correct.
If Richmond wants to pass a bill that says you have to notify us of a loss of your gun within 24 hours or else pay a $250 fine, that's not an unconstitutional bill. That's a stupid law, okay? But that's not an unconstitutional law. And the police are going to enforce that, okay? It's not like they're not going to enforce any gun laws. It's just the ones that are blatantly, that anybody could see with 20/20 vision, that this is outrageously unconstitutional. So Virginia Beach, get on board. I mean, it is embarrassing that my hometown, the largest city in Virginia, is not even putting it on the agenda. So hopefully on January 7th in Virginia Beach, it will be on the agenda. Suffolk is ignoring the people out there.
Hampton said they're going to wait.
So is Hampton.
Newport News said they're going to wait.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the message I have for you in these city councils. If you can't get behind these people, then we don't need to be behind you. All right? And there are elections coming up, and you need to be challenged in your district. There needs to be regular people who are watching these videos, living in these counties. They're not being listened to. You need to announce your candidacy to run for that city council or that board of supervisors position, because it is outrageous that they're not even putting it on the agenda. Now, I am all for Virginia Beach putting it on the agenda and saying no. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
That's their decision. I'm not going to force an elected leader to vote one way or the other. But to not put it on the agenda,
That's right, man.
that is just derelict of duty. That is thumbing the nose at thousands of people that are showing up.
Mm-hmm.
It is unbelievable. And so these elected officials need to realize that, I mean, we were in Hampton when they decided not to hear it. The agenda items in Hampton were making grass, the high grass where the city could cut it from 10 inches to 8 inches.
Right, yeah.
That was their big evening, was,
Right.
They had to come in and do this presentation on whether grass should be 8 inches or 10 inches. But yet they're going to ignore the thousands of people that showed up and said, we want to have something on the agenda regarding Second Amendments. It's a joke.
Yeah.
It is embarrassing, and the people in Hampton, you should be ashamed of yourselves. And I hope everybody who's in Hampton who sees the garbage that these officials are doing will run, because that is how you get a politician to listen, is making them fear that their job is not as secure as they think they are.
Yeah.
Everybody should run. It doesn't take much to run for a city council job. You got to get a few hundred votes in some jurisdictions. Get on the ballot and talk about it, and talk to your friends, and make them sweat.
Yeah, and in the meantime, let's keep up the heat, so to speak, by writing those officials about your ideas of why you're in opposition to HB 16. And as you reminded us, be tactful, be respectful about it, but they'll listen.
Yeah,
It's going to put the fire in the feet, so to speak.
Do you think that if we weren't talking about Senate Bill 16 and other people weren't talking about Senate Bill 16, it was just all quiet, nice and peaceful right now, what do you think would have happened by the end of January?
Right. A lot of this would have come down the pipe, so to speak. It would have been already passed.
It would have passed.
Yes.
It would have passed.
Yeah.
Senate Bill 16 would have become law if we didn't stand up and yell about it. And point the hypocrisy out, it would become law. So that is the point. Get involved. Get out there and get these people, get in their faces and tell them that we're not going to tolerate this kind of stuff. Now listen, I'm also very mindful about elections have consequences, right? I mean, Democrats won. Okay, so they're going to get to change some laws that they want to do, and I get that, and that is fine.
Right.
But these people are not leaders; they're representatives, and they're supposed to make laws that represent everybody, not just the people that voted for them, not just the money from Bloomberg. They're supposed to represent all of us, and so if you're going to make a law, you need to make a law that is beneficial to the entire Commonwealth of Virginia.
That's correct, yes.
And that's just it. That is where we're going. Robert says he can't hear us very well. I don't know why. For those of you listening, are you able? If you're not able to hear us, send me another Facebook thing, and we'll kind of play with that a little bit more.
And then all it requires, and talking to folks, is a letter and a stamp.
That's right.
Right, one sheet of paper. Don't go into all the details. Just why you're in opposition to HB 16 and some of the other things too. A letter and a stamp, and it gets on their desk, and you mentioned that they have the individuals who sort through this, but they're going to have to read it, they're going to be mindful of it, and they're going to hear from you, and it's important for us to kind of keep that heat up. That is phenomenal. I was thinking maybe about 75% of the state, or 75 of those locales. One number I read said there are 95, we said 116 or 106. So that's nearly 95%. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
This is getting all over, and it's getting attention nationwide.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. All right, Robert, I hear what you're saying, that we're having a little bit of an echo issue. I don't know if that's your system or ours. So for those of you watching right now, if you could just throw a quick comment on here of whether you are hearing an echo, and let me know. And
Might be my voice bouncing around the room.
Yeah, being next to Mark, being next to Mark, his voice is like the voice of God. I imagine that when the angels were writing, speaking to the folks in the Old Testament, it sounded something like Mark. All right, great. Looks like a lot of people are saying the volume's okay.
Okay. I wanted to just throw this hypothetical out there, and I hope that it is on January 8th or somewhere in January. Boom, HB16 is gone, and some of the others. But I was thinking about this, talking to a good friend. In the event this makes it through, and you gave us strategies on how to keep those firearms in our possession, that means that I should plan ahead. In the event of just being rationally practical, if the what-if scenarios, June 30th means I should be on my way to North Carolina if I possess one of these, because if not, then I become a Class 6 felon.
Yeah.
Committed.
I mean, if something like Senate Bill 16 goes through, that's exactly what that means.
Yeah.
That means you have to evacuate your firearm out of Virginia to be in compliance with the law. And I did, or you have to register. And I'm telling you this, I'm not going to register.
Right.
I'm not going to register with a governor who has openly said confiscation. There's no way I'm going to register. So if it comes down to it, I will move my firearms into North Carolina. It works out well for me. I have an office down there anyway, so I'll move them down there, and that's how this will go. And that's the only thing that that you can do to not become a felon under the law. And we will have challenges and court challenges, and I guess maybe the more extreme the law, the better chance we have of something good coming out of it. But we're going to have to probably move it. So, all right, people are still kind of talking about the sound. I'm going to let Mark talk for a second. I'm going to try to adjust this for the next, because we still have about 30 minutes left.
Yeah. As always, we appreciate you listening to Power Hour, the podcast here on Facebook with Attorney Tim Anderson. And always keep in mind that the views and opinions expressed here on this podcast are solely those of the author and the guest. Now, this podcast is for informational purposes only, and it doesn't constitute. Also, there's no attorney-client privilege or relationship. And as we have been seeing, we've asked you to feel free to ask your questions or comments on Facebook. Legal consultation services, if you require those, will be determined at the time of your appointment. And our firm, Anderson Law, is located here at 2492 North Landing Road, Suite 104 in Virginia Beach. As you probably discovered online, virginialawoffice.com, virginialawoffice.com, 800-1000, 800-1000. Of course, the area code is 757. Attorney Anderson mentioned we've been doing this for about since March or so, and a lot of great folks, and that's one thing I'm proud of, the folks who are tuned into this. I'd say they are well read, they know the Constitution, and they stand and they passionately believe in it.
Yeah.
That is the exciting thing about this whole movement. And you've kind of taken us to school when you tell me, give me the cue when that time is permissible. But you mentioned Maryland, and there's the dichotomy, I guess you could say. There was the Maryland blue flu, but there were two landmark cases in Maryland with the Fourth Circuit Court, as I remember, what is it, Colby versus Hogan, right? Colby versus Hogan, and the Heller case,
Yeah,
Heller. Isn't that kind of peculiar that they affected us that much?
Yeah. It's by design. That's not an accident. So here's everybody's saying the sound is much better. So I'm glad to hear that. So because we still have a good 35 more minutes. So sorry about the sound, but it looks like it is better. All right. So the Democrats saw what's happened in California, New York, New Jersey. They saw what happened in Maryland. Mm-hmm. They saw that the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed Maryland's assault weapons ban. They saw that the courts of appeals have affirmed the high-capacity weapons ban in New Jersey. And they see that and they think, well, you know what? We could be just like California and probably be just fine, or we could be a little worse. And that was what Senate Bill 16 is it went further than even California.
Truly, yeah.
And they're just trying to push it. They're trying to push the envelope. They're trying to turn Virginia into a more restrictive gun state than any other state in the nation off of one election. All right. Keep in mind the Democrats have not held the power of government on the state level in decades.
That's true. Yeah.
And so they think because they win one election, they can convert the state into this most super ultra liberal state in overnight in just one election cycle. That was a big miscalculation.
Right.
And they're seeing that.
That's true. Good point.
And
there.
instead of them admitting it, and instead of them also admitting this, is that there's a difference between a Virginia Democrat and a California Democrat.
Sure enough.
There's a difference, okay? The people in Virginia that lived in Virginia and grew up and might be a Democrat, grew up in a culture of a southern state, of a state that actually has values and actually has people that are engaged in their communities and not just riddled by controlling government. And so Democrats are different here than there. And so for them to think they can come in and make us worse than the California Democrats is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's totally unbelievable.
Yeah. I want to go to some discussions that I've been engaged in the last couple of weeks or so. And we have to just make a clear line that we know we're the law-abiding citizens. Our training has prepared us for the what-if scenarios. We understand the law. We're not these crazy, zany folks out there who are committing these mass murders nor crimes, because we understand the Constitution, we understand the law, the legal aspects of owning a firearm, proper storage and safekeeping. But one individual had so much as to say, well, Stephen Paddock was a law-abiding gun owner and he did all of that. But here's what they're not telling you. Two aspects of this. The Centers for Disease Control and many other organizations have pointed to the underlying cause of these individuals: mental health.
Mental health.
We've covered that on the show.
Mental health.
Why aren't they paying attention to those variables?
Did you see my video yesterday about why you shouldn't vote for me?
Didn't get a chance to see some levity from this guy.
There's a little cult on Facebook that's encouraging me to run for some kind of office.
Okay.
And so I thought I would squash that yesterday by coming up with a video of all of my zany and loony ideas.
Okay.
And I would think that I would have offended half of the population of the Second Amendment so that it would be put. Well, in one of my points I made yesterday was the biggest threat to our country. Republicans aren't doing anything about it. The Democrats aren't doing anything about it. There's no control over money in this country, right? They're just spend because it benefits both of them to do that. The Republicans who say they're fiscally conservative have not one time in my lifetime, since 1974, come up with a spending cut. Okay. Come up with a reasonable way to slow down spending. They just want to spend it, instead of on social programs, they want to spend it on military programs. So there needs to be a constitutional amendment that the federal government has to be in a balanced budget. Every state has to have a balanced budget. The federal government should too.
Right.
The second biggest threat is tribal. It's Democrat, I'm a Republican. I hate you because you're a Democrat. You hate me because I'm a Republican. That kind of mentality, right? And by the way, I don't think Mark's a Republican or a Democrat. I don't know what he is. He's probably just like me, which is kind of in the middle. But that's a big, huge problem. And so we elect these parties, and the Republicans get in, and then the Democrats, their only job for the next 2 years is to obstruct. Right. And then the Democrats get in, and the Republicans' only job is to obstruct. And it's just this cycle of whacking each other as hard as you can and not letting them move forward. But then number three, is mental health. And that's just what you said.
Right. Yeah.
We are in a mental health crisis in Virginia and nationwide.
Yes.
People are, for whatever reason, in a situation that has never been seen in our country. We need to make it a top priority that people are engaged in some type of dialogue with this. Why can't there be psychologists embedded in every high school in the nation? Not some guidance counselor, right? But why can't we have a psychologist in every high school that is specifically trained to identify suicidal ideations,
right?
Bipolar the effects of bipolar, severe depression. Brings a gun to school and they shoot it up, right? But if we had had a psychologist there that could have said, hey, this kid has a 8 out of 10 score of being, in a homicidal moment, maybe we could predict, right? But instead of that, instead of talking about that, they just say, oh, it's the gun. It's the gun that did it. It's because of this. And I've said this multiple times in Facebook, write this one down. 1/5 of all gun owners are lawful gun owners. Okay, so basically, when you commit a crime, 1/5 of people who commit a crime are caused by lawful gun owners. That means the other 4/5 of gun-related crimes are caused by people who illegally obtain the firearms. Okay, so 4/5 of all gun homicides are caused because somebody did something to illegally possess their firearm. The 1/5 of the people that have committed crimes commit about 20% of the gun-related things. And so when a kid brings a gun to school that his dad lawfully purchased, that doesn't mean that the laws don't work. That doesn't mean that that we need to punish the millions of other people. It means that the parents didn't properly secure their firearms.
That's right.
And there should be a consequence to that. There means that the system that kid by not identifying that kid is in a crisis. So the system failed, the parents failed, but that doesn't mean you impose sweeping new regulations over the rest of the population, the hundreds of millions of people who own guns, because we aren't going to recognize the mental health problem, and we're not going to recognize the lack of parenting from being able to secure the firearms. If you want to pass a law, Richmond, pass a law that says if your kid gets a hold of your gun, you're going to jail for 1 year mandatory minimum. Okay, I'd be for that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
For that, you should be a felon.
Just happened recently in Norfolk.
It happened recently at my daughter's high school in Princess Anne. A kid got a hold of his dad's gun and killed himself with it, and a high school kid, and he was a Navy elite guy, and so that guy should be in jail for not securing his firearms appropriately. If you are going to own firearms and have kids, that is a law I could get behind. You have to secure those firearms. I could be for that. There has to be consequences. Parents have to know you can't just have your firearms laying around where your children can get to it. Right? I mean, there's nothing. That doesn't mean I have to punish other millions of people that own guns. But we have a outrageous mental health crisis in this country, and nobody wants to talk about it. And I don't really know why that is, because the compassionate Democrats talk about how, they want to, they're really big into social programs, right, and all that. But
that's not on the list.
It's not on the list.
It should be, yes.
And why not? I mean, look, it affects everything. Every plague of our society is affected by mental health. Most mass shootings, there's a mental health component.
That's right.
Most crimes, there's a mental health component.
That's right. Most
drug use is treating. Okay, they're self to deal with some type of problem. So I mean, if the root cause of the majority of our plagues of our country are because we have a mental health issue, then why don't we address the root problem to fix all of this? That's me. That's what I would think.
And that makes perfectly good sense. There's a fear in one sense, and there's a falsehood that those who are in support of these types of sweeping gun rules and laws, thinking that it's going to quell or affect crime. When the fact and the evidence is by so many different organizations, this has been a crash course for me. It has had negligible effect on reducing crime. The evidence that we need to go to, or why I'm surprised none of this is any of the House bills. Just as an example, Steve True, Newport News PD, they were able to get 757 illegal firearms off the street. We took a collective sigh of breath. There's the direction we need to be going, And you've had some criminal psychologists who said if this individual would have been spotted earlier, just what you said, intervention could have been handled earlier, and we likely would not have seen these types of mass murders. There was some evidence that the left, and I hate to get into that terminology because it turns folks off, but those who are purporting these types of crazy gun laws don't want to look at the root causes of this. Go in the direction of supporting law enforcement. They've got the skills, they've got the training, they've got the resources. State troopers who have that knowledge of the intercommerce activity, the illegal activity of gun laws transporting. They know who the gun runners are.
Right.
Why aren't we giving them more support?
Yeah.
That's practical.
But instead of that, we have a congressman or a senator from Virginia that says, forget about all the illegal crimes. We're going to make this whole new group of people, felons, hundreds of thousands of people, and now we got to go after these lawful gun owners.
Right.
And despite the fact that the police can't even keep up with the unlawful activity that we currently have. It is the definition of insanity. It is unbelievable. Yeah. My positions have changed rapidly over these past few weeks on certain things, especially on this point, which is the Second Amendment community says no compromise, right? No compromise, no compromise. And I am not that way. I am always about trying to make a deal, try to find a way to figure something out. But Vincent Smith's famous quote is I will not bargain children's rights for my rights. And when they say no compromise, what they're saying is that you're not going to impose a law on me that may let me keep my stuff, but not let my children have the same way of life that I had. Mm-hmm. What they're saying is that why are you trying to go after me as a lawful gun owner when the majority of all gun crimes are caused by inner city gang members and people who illegally purchase firearms.
Domestics has been on the list in the last couple of years.
Yes.
Yeah. You're very keen, and you told us a lot about that some years back. I think of those folks in domestic situations who have that high emotions, as you stated. If they were aware of the law, that could have some effect. Education, if you will. Maybe they'd be more apt to not commit those types of crimes, secure that weapon, get out of the house, have a cooling off period, so to speak.
Yeah, well, and those are always dangerous situations because, if you get into a domestic situation, you have, and you inject a firearm into that equation, that's a very dangerous situation for everybody. Yeah. And so, that's the reason why they want to push the red flag gun laws, and I get that and I understand that.
Right.
But the reality is that the data from the states that have the red flag laws do not support that those laws overwhelmingly have reduced crime.
Took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, go ahead.
Say it, because that's the talking point.
Right.
You can't make a law that's going to stop somebody from committing a crime.
Right.
Okay, bottom line, you can't do it. You can't make a law that is going to make the guy in Virginia Beach who shot up that building not shoot up that building in Virginia Beach.
Right.
All you can do is make laws that take away from people like me from being able to defend ourselves when something like that happens.
Yeah, we remember that. We say her name is in the highest reference, but that was just made the hair stand up on the back of your neck as you shared that we saw Miss Nixon, who told her husband she just knew something was going to happen.
Like the day before.
The day before.
Or 2 days before, something like that.
Man. She couldn't take her weapon to school or to the work because that was the law of the building.
Yeah, it was not a law. There's a policy of employment. Okay. So, had I ask anybody who's for, gun-free zones, like all the government buildings should be gun-free zones, were the employees in Building 2 on May 31st more safe or less safe because that was a gun-free zone? Ask yourself that question. Ask anybody that question. On May 31st, were they more safe or less safe because that was a gun-free zone? And blatantly obvious that the only answer to that question is they were less safe.
Yeah.
They were unable to respond. Can you imagine if Miss Nixon had brought her firearm with her that day?
Yeah.
And when the shooting started, maybe when that guy's walking by, she could have taken a couple shots at him and taken him out,
Right.
you know, while he's shooting up her things. Or just the mere fact that somebody shoots back at him, maybe that scares him out of the word.
That's exactly right. One criminal psychologist talked about those who go on these rampages. If in any type of situation, whether it's Robert, anytime they see someone with or feel the wrath, so to speak, I'll put it in those terms, or there's someone firing back at them, they do one of two things. They surrender or they commit the final act.
Right,
Suicide.
right,
That's what they do.
right.
Right. And I want to put this in here really quickly too, but of the 2.5 million Americans in the domestic case I mentioned, there have been an abundance of stories also where women have been able to save their lives. I believe there's one here in Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, that occurred over the summer where they've been able to save their lives.
Mm-hmm.
The left of those who, they don't talk about that.
No.
I wonder why.
And you
You
know,
got a quick answer?
and they also don't talk about the fact that you know, they say America has this big, you know, where we stand alone in the world for these mass shootings. Not true. You know,
Right.
not true. You don't hear about the mass shootings in Crimea and Russia, but when there's a mass shooting there, it's, and no disrespect to what happened in Virginia Beach because it's tragic, but when there's a mass shooting in Russia, hundreds of people die. You know, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of people died. Like the most recent one was like 234, I read, died from the mass shooting there. The shooting in Paris at the concert, you know, like 40 people died.
Yeah.
And, you know, these are places where guns are highly restrictive. And so telling the population that they can't bring a gun with them simply makes it super easy for the shooter to have run of the house.
Right.
And there's no way to, the reason they don't talk about these things is because there's no way to respond to them in an educated, articulate argument. They don't want to respond to the fact that in Virginia there's only been 343 people killed in 2017 by homicidal gunfire, and 1/5 of those were from lawful gun owners, you know, lawfully purchased gun owners. So that means about 70 people died in 2017 by unlawful use of lawfully purchased firearms, which is a lot. But in a state of 8.5 million,
Right.
you got to compare apples to apples. I mean,
Okay.
we're talking fractional percentages here of chances of you being killed by a lawful gun owner. They don't want to talk about the fact that even of those 70 people, couple were from
Right.
rifles. You
Right.
know, so you want to demonize an AR-15.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's not that's causing the problem. It's pistols.
people. Yeah,
You know, it's pistols. If you're going to point to a gun that causes problems, and so it's all just a false narrative. It's all fake. It's all a lie. And people are being brainwashed by these canned talking points. But
Yeah.
look at the statistics for yourself. And,
That's right. Check
And,
it out. Yeah.
and have them do that. You know, United States is ranked number 64 in the world of 97 of the 97 top countries. Number 64 per capita of having mass shootings. 64, not number one, as
Okay.
President Obama would like to say.
Right.
64 per capita, which means, yeah, we have a lot of shootings. We may have more shootings in the United States than a country like France, but we also have 4 times more people,
Right.
you know, than France does, and you know, these other countries. And so when you look at per capita, when you look at 70 people in Virginia were shot and killed by a lawful gun owner out of 8.5 million, that is a pretty low percentage, and that is not a gun crisis. Okay,
That's correct. Yes.
we have a mental health crisis.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's more right now. There's more than 70 people in the Virginia Beach Psychiatric Center right now. I'm positive of that. You know, there's so come on, let's really talk about the truth.
Questions?
Yeah, well, we got lots. I mean,
All right.
I've been on my soapbox. I'm sorry, Facebook.
That's okay. Me too. I always enjoy the conversation. I learned a lot. It's crash course in law as well as this issue.
So, unfortunately, I can't see. 237 people have commented. I can't see, but the last 5. It's just a glitch with Facebook. So I'm sorry if in my little rant there I didn't address them. I'll look at your questions and I'll try to respond here after we break. Here's what's on the agenda this week. Tonight, off to York. Okay, York has their meeting tonight. It looks promising that we're going to get a good thing from the Board of Supervisors tonight. Tomorrow night is Suffolk.
York County?
York County.
Okay.
Yeah, York County. Tomorrow night is Suffolk, and Suffolk is a total mess. It's an embarrassment. They're ignoring people in Suffolk, and they're not even putting it on the agenda. And I'm going to go there tomorrow, and I'm going to remind them of the consequences of not listening to the voters. And so that's tomorrow. And then that is pretty much it until after Christmas. Now, this weekend, the Libertarian Party is going to be rolling out the Saslaw recall petition. So if you want to be a part of that, you need to get on our mailing list so we can coordinate and link you up. If you want to donate to that, they need about $20,000 to get this thing off the ground. That is where we are on that as well. Don't donate to the Libertarian Party. Donate to the Libertarian Party of Virginia. And I've posted those links on the Facebook page. That is, I think that is everything I can give you as an update. I am sure between now and next week, next Tuesday, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, well, sounds like a pretty easy week now. I don't think there's much left to do. I got 2 more Board of Council meetings, City Council meetings, and Board of Supervisor meetings, and then it's home free. But who knows what I'm going to get into
Right.
between now and next Tuesday. I
Right.
might be running for President of the United States. Joking. Dear God, if my wife heard me say that, she would, I would not be coming home to a nice wife. And so I'm not doing that. But anyway, that is where we are. And, Mark, I'll tell you this. The Facebook Live has attracted over 600,000 people in the past week.
Wow.
And we have about 350,000 people that have actually done something on the page to engage it, whether it's a like or a share or a video. It is a powerful voice, and you and I have an awesome responsibility to just tell the truth, because people want just the truth.
That's what I like about you in this discussion. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but as I said, I'm getting a crash course. It's the facts and the evidence.
Right.
As an attorney, that's what you have to admit, the facts and the evidence before the court, and that's what we have to stand on. And the other folks, they don't want to hear that. It's just an emotion from them. It's not rational.
We would, Jeff Perry, it's actually every Tuesday, not Friday, but yeah, you're right, on every Tuesday at 2 p.m. They wouldn't be watching us if they were getting the truth from CNN or they were getting the truth from Fox News. They wouldn't be watching this, but they're watching this because we're giving them the real pulse of what's happening in Virginia, the real facts. I literally just came out and said this whole thing about the governor switching off the internet and the power. That's ridiculous. It's insanity to even think that. When I'm watching things happen, I'm going to call balls and strikes, and hopefully you will get the truth and you will act on it. I have no political motivation. I'm not asking for any money.
No pecuniary.
You
taught us a new word.
No pecuniary gain. And so we're here. The reason I'm doing this right now is because I want my kids to have the same state that I had when I grew up. That's it. That's the reason. That's my motivation. That's where I am in this for my own benefit. But that is the only reason I'm in this. Because the blue flu is upon us, and we are going to have to eradicate this as much as we can out of Virginia. So, last thought. Join the groups. Okay, my gosh, there are so many gun groups now that have asked me to join. I'm joining every one that I can because there's strength in numbers. Share ideas, share events. Get in these groups. They're good. These Facebook groups are amazing.
Yeah,
it's a great way to
right.
network. It's a great way to keep in touch of what's going on. And that's it. Becca, this is Mark Rollison. He's my co-host.
Hey, appreciate it. Thank you for checking it out.
We've been doing the Power Hour every Tuesday now for quite a while. We used to be on the radio on 1310 AM for quite a while, but we do the Power Hour every Tuesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Mark Rollison is my co-host for this particular show, and so he's here to engage and participate and brings a lot of insight to it. So anyway, we're about out of time. It's about 2:51. Thank you all for participating. Share the truth. And we will see you maybe in York if you're going to be up there in York County tonight, and Suffolk tomorrow night. And get involved in this Saslaw thing. This is a big swell. So be donating to the Libertarian Party of Virginia or be getting on the mailing list. Those are all on my Facebook page so that we can push that information to these guys. We'll see you next week, Tuesday. Who knows what Tim Anderson will do between now and next Tuesday.
Catch you next time. Thanks. Who knows? All right.